Colossians 1:19. For it pleased the Father that in him all the fullness should dwell, and by him to reconcile all things to himself. By him, whether things on earth or things in heaven, having made peace through the blood of his cross. And you who once were alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now he has reconciled in the body of his flesh through death, to present you holy and blameless and above reproach in his sight. Did you know that word reconcile literally means to make friends out of enemies? Some people think they're God's friends because they don't have anything against God. They're just living their life. God, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. The Bible says they're his enemies. You are his enemy if you haven't been reconciled. But this is not a negotiated truce. It is contingent upon total surrender to his will, his way, his lordship, and his cross. You don't get to say, well, God, I'll serve you if you do this for me. Oh, God, okay, I'll make you Lord, but I need you to. He's not playing that. Following Christ is not a buffet. Oh, I like these miracles. Ooh, I love this healing. Oh, this peace is awesome. I want me some more of that joy. I want to get all the dessert. You other people deal with that, suffering and all that being faithful when things are bad. And, you all eat that. I'm going to eat the good stuff. It's not a buffet. It's a full sit-down dinner where you eat what's put in front of you. But the cook loves you more than your mama. So everything on that table is going to be exactly what you need. Jesus never tried to draw followers with carnal enticements. Never. If anything, he was like trying to talk them out of it. And here's the last thing. I'm almost done. Gosh, it's only been like 30 minutes. That's amazing. You can watch from afar, or you can take it up. Luke 23:44. 23:44. And it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. Then the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was torn in two. And when Jesus had cried out with a loud voice, he said, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. And having said this, he breathed his last. Now when the centurion saw what had happened, he glorified God, saying, certainly this was a righteous man. And the whole crowd who came together to that sight, seeing what had been done, beat their breast and returned. But all his acquaintances and the women who followed him from Galilee stood at a distance, watching these things. So now that Jesus was dead, all his disciples, including those women, they had a choice to make. They could go back to their fishing. They could go back to their tax collecting. They could go back to their basket weaving or whatever it was they did before Jesus called them to follow him. Or they could take up their own cross. Spectators are not partakers. Just because they saw everything happen to Jesus, just because they knew him pretty well and hung out with him and knew all the stuff about him, it did not mean they were following him. In fact, Jesus put it very bluntly in Mark 8:34. When he had called the people to himself with his disciples also, he said to them, whoever desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him the Son of Man also will be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. If you'd allow me to use this example, my wife Pam was one day the owner of a closet full of clothes and shoes and animals and a Yukon and a bunch of stuff. She knew how to have stuff. The next day, she didn't own any of it anymore. Her computer, her wonderful grandfather clock she finally got last year that she's wanted all her life, her beautiful Amish dining room table and matching hutch. All she took to heaven with her was her beautiful soul. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for all our blessings from the Lord. He gives them to us to enjoy. Proverbs 10:22, the blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. Nothing wrong with having stuff if the Lord gave it to you. He does bless us with stuff to enjoy unless they become our joy. Blessings should draw me closer to him and increase my gratitude and my generosity, not my sense of entitlement. But it's easy in this materialistic culture of ours to get that really out of whack, isn't it? It is. You take up the cross by laying you down. Your cross is to follow Christ in the path he's called you to go. Part of my cross is I'm called to be a pastor. That's my cross. That might not be your cross, but it's my cross. And you know, it means a lot of things. Part of it is usually on Saturdays I'm praying, I'm studying, I'm immersed in the Word and what I'm doing because I'm going to bring the Word here. I'm not one of those guys that can have his sermon like on Monday. And I mean, when I start thinking about preaching to you guys, I can't think about anything else. I'm immersed in it from usually about Friday all the way through to the time I get in this pulpit. That means that I'm not very social on Saturdays. I can't go out and party like you guys do every Saturday night. You know, I'm focused. It's part of my cross. Many might travel with you, or few might travel with you, but nobody can carry it for you. Until we take up our cross, we're just trying to build our own lives and be happy. And that's impossible. Taking up our cross is now. Taking up our cross is today. It is not someday when we feel like we're more ready or better equipped. It's immediate. Remember, we kind of read over it. There's a guy named Simon of Cyrene. And he came into town. Jesus, at the same time, Jesus was carrying his cross to the place of execution. And Jesus' body came out and he couldn't carry it anymore and he fell on the ground. And the Roman soldiers just randomly said, "Hey, you, come carry this cross." Simon was just there like to get beer, cheese, and tater chips and you know, go to the market and, you know, enjoy the festival. He had no idea he was going to be called upon to carry a cross and follow Jesus. These things happen in our lives randomly, it seems. But did you know that Simon, brother of Alexander and Rufus, ended up being a pillar in the church? Can you imagine every time he walked into church, everybody was, there's the guy that actually carried Jesus' cross. I mean, we're supposed to carry our cross, but he actually got the